The CEO Forum is one of 3 lines of services supporting CEOs through CEO Next Business Institute. In addition to today's presentation, CEOs engage in peer-to-peer learning and receive up to 40 hours of individualized research and organizational support for their businesses. CEO Next Business Institute is a regional partnership funded by Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, Carver, and Dakota counties in partnership with the Edward Lowe Foundation. This program is also supported by our community partners, Frederickson and Byron and Insperity. And I'd like to take a moment today to have Kristen Bendixson from Insperity introduce herself. Kristen?
Thank you, Mary. Like she said, my name is Kristen Bendixson. I work with Insperity. I'm a business performance advisor based here locally. Insperity does HR for small and medium-sized businesses. We're an outsourced service model that allows companies a turnkey HR infrastructure. We help companies with employee experience, their ability to scale, and cost containment and predictability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. We are also pleased today to be welcoming our guest speaker, David Mylrea. David is the majority owner and chief executive officer of the Minnesota-based Engage Technologies Corporation. Engage was founded in 1992 and has grown to a global company with annual revenues in excess of $50 million, with 3 operating divisions, including Squid Ink Manufacturing, Eastie Enterprises, and American Film and Machinery. In 2021, Engage sold and delivered industrial inkjet printing systems and packaging equipment in 63 countries. Engage currently has offices and plants throughout Minnesota and the world. Among his many other accomplishments, David has been a capital partner and leader at the national law firm Hinshaw and Culbertson LLP and the chief operating officer of PDS Gaming Corporation, a publicly traded financial services company. Thank you, David, for joining us, and thank you all for joining us today. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to type your questions in the chat box throughout. If you know of a CEO that would benefit from this program, please put them in touch with me. And with that, I'm going to turn this presentation over to David.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. You did a nice job, Mary, of introducing Engage Technologies Corporation. We can click to the next slide. But I'll just show you a quick schematic of who we are. Engage is a holding company. We have coding and marking, which is Squid Ink Manufacturing. We make printers and industrial inkjet printing systems and coding and marking solutions. We sell those products all over the world. We have Eastie Enterprises, which is just recently relocated up to Big Lake, Minnesota, into a brand new 50,000 square foot manufacturing plant. And American Film and Machinery, and I'll click to the next slide if you would. And there's Squid Ink, and you can see the things that we put codes and marks on. Every piece of PVC tubing in the Midwest has my ink, and my printer applies that ink. And those are just a variety of the thousands of products that we place codes and marks on. Substantially all of the eggs that are produced in the Midwest for sure have our systems, and you'll see that at the grocery store when you pick up your next dozen eggs. We print on everything you could possibly imagine, and that's Squid Ink. We make the inks in Spring Lake Park. We manufacture them, and we make the printing systems in Brooklyn Park, which is where our headquarters are located. Can click to the next one, please. Eastie is automated shrink packaging and case sealing. If you buy a 24-pack of bottled water, it has plastic wrapped around it at the grocery store, and you pick it up by that plastic and put it in your car. That's us. We make the equipment that wraps that in plastic. And on the slide are a variety of other examples of what we wrap. We wrapped kayaks. We wrapped windshields for Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Just everything you can imagine in the grocery store, at Lowe's, at the hardware store, wherever you go, you will see something that's wrapped in plastic, and that's what we do. That's Eastie. And then, of course, the next slide is AFM, American Film and Machinery. And we put those sleeves on those bottles. The bottle of Gatorade that you buy, that's our equipment that puts that sleeve on a clear plastic bottle, and that's got the branding and the barcode and the contents and so on and so forth. And everything you can imagine's got some kind of a label or sleeve on it, from vitamins to shampoos and conditioners to cooking oils, as you can see with the PAM. That is American Film and Machinery. All of these products substantially all of them are manufactured and distributed throughout the United States. And the coding and marking is all over the world. We sell primarily to independent distributors as opposed to directly to the end user consumer. That's not exclusive, but primarily I would say about 90% of our business is selling through independent distributors. We can move on. This gives you just a touch of who we are and what we've done. We have, as I mentioned, plants in Brooklyn Park, Spring Lake Park, Big Lake, Shanghai, and a facility in The Hague in the Netherlands as well. That's our Brooklyn Park facility that you see there. Our annual revenues since 2016 have increased from 28,000 and change to about 52,000 and change in the last 5 years. And we are looking forward to a really, really strong 2022 and 2023. Typically, because of who we are and who we compete with, we do exceptionally well in a down economy. We tend to be, although we're not exclusively the low-cost provider, we tend to be a lower-cost provider than our competitors. Our competitors, almost across the board, are multi-billion-dollar enterprises. And we are a small company, as you can see. We have 145 employees, and we can move quickly and make decisions quickly, execute quickly, and we can be very creative when our large institutional competitors are not really able to do that. So you can switch to the next slide, if you will. I did an agenda here. I'm not going to really follow it bullet point by bullet point. I send that as sort of a guide for us so we can have this conversation. The biggest challenge today is trying to figure out what the biggest challenges are. Obviously, we've got inflation, recession, talent shortages, geopolitical issues, cybersecurity, pandemic, endemic, cybersecurity, climate issues, you name it. And, you know, I don't want to talk about any of those as a practical matter because, frankly, it's not all that interesting. We see it all in the newspaper. We see it all in the, if you read the newspaper, you see it online, and we hear it on the news, on the television almost every day, sometimes 3 and 4 times a day. And each one of these issues is always bandied about. So to me, that's not all that interesting. I view challenges really as, in many cases, opportunities, where other people are struggling to try and address this challenge and that challenge. We like to use that as an opportunity to attack and take advantage of situations where other companies, much bigger companies, aren't able to react as quickly as we do. With things like inflation, recession, geopolitics, you know, these are realities. We've got no practical way of solving them. They simply become exercises, in my view, exercises in forward thinking. So one of the things that we try and do as an enterprise is to look around the corner as best we can, and then plan for the worst and hope for the best. I want to talk about a few of the challenges slash opportunities that we faced over the years. And, you know, I'm assuming, and Steve informed me that you all have your houses in order, meaning you're up and operating as a company, and you've got your company prepared for growth. Every business owner that I know of wants to create wealth. So these are a few of the inflection points, I think, that helped Engage grow relatively quickly. And with all of them, I wished we'd started doing them sooner. So if you're in that time dollar range of 1 million to 10 million, it's not too soon. I wished we'd started doing a lot of these things when we were a $1 million company. Maybe we'd be a $200 million company today, but we all live and we learn. The first is with regard to operations. And I view this under the category of people and talent. Smaller companies tend to inherit some people, no matter where you're at. You end up with some people. And really with regard to employees, making the right decisions quickly, being decisive, to make sure that you've got the right people in the right seats. People change. Not everyone has the skills necessary to get from point A to point B. They may have been great as a pure startup, a bootstrapping operation, but if you want to go from say 5 million to 20 million, they may not be the best people. They may not have the services, the skill sets that you need to elevate your company to the next level. Views and relative values change. And Facebook obviously is a famous case where one of the founders was forced to exit. He didn't want to exit, but he did, and it was because of skill sets. And you don't have to be Facebook and have that kind of massive global success to have these issues. Everybody has issues like this. With our group, we are consistently communicating what our core values are. Distilled, pretty much this is what we all learned in kindergarten, right? Work hard, be respectful of others, and help us achieve greatness. Don't budge in line, don't take somebody else's peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and don't interrupt, and be kind and friendly to your neighbors, right? So those in a nutshell are our core values. And we go to great lengths to communicate our core values to all of our employees. I'll get into how we do that in a minute, but suffice to say that if you don't qualify, if you don't engage technologies, if you don't adhere to our core values, you won't be here very long. Now, that sounds draconian. It really isn't. Very, very few people have been asked to leave this company in the 30 years that I've been involved with Engage. The vast majority, and I mean the vast majority, have been handled with training and with direct action and or with a simple position change. Some people aren't great at managing and they don't want to manage, but they're in a management role. They're there because just that's what happened. And the company grew. Now you've got 20 people that you have to manage and you're not good at it and you don't want to do it. You can get crabby. I've been told that if I don't eat lunch or dinner by a certain hour, I get crabby. So we all have that capacity. And so you really just need to take immediate and direct action to get the right people, the round peg, so to speak, in the round hole. And where we do have a change, and this is important, I think, you want to try hard. You want to make a concerted effort to upgrade. With every new hire that we make, we go to great lengths to communicate our core values, and we look to upgrade with higher skill sets. Never hire just to fill a chair. Matters not what business you're involved with. Retention is a combination of fair compensation, creating a positive, rewarding workplace, and Engage. We do several things to achieve that, to improve our retention. We, in the last 5 years, have adopted a program where our production employees can improve their skills by taking courses at the technical college, and they receive tuition reimbursement for that. We have a lot of people that take advantage of that. In today's market, when trying to hire quality people is very, very difficult, hiring from within and offering opportunities for advancement and giving them a cookie, which is essentially reimbursing them for their tuition, is a small cost to pay. If you can fill a chair with somebody that knows the company, that fulfills our need to have someone appreciate and respect our core values, and also upgrade their talent and their skill sets. So we did that program. I highly recommend that. We've adopted a matching program for employees who participated in our 401k plan, which is another way of saying we want to help you invest in your future. This isn't a job, this is a career. Our 401k has quintupled from the standpoint of participation as a direct result of the matching program. We have an annual bonus program, and everybody loves this. It's not truly a profit sharing program, because we don't do that. But the larger the revenue and the more profitable we are, and the longer you've been here, the more money you will receive in your annual profit sharing distribution. And you have to be here to earn it. People get real excited about that. It's one of the most fun aspects of my job is with each payment of profit sharing, so-called profit sharing, the annual bonus, I deliver those checks personally. And it, honestly, best part of my job. People love it. We do, in this past couple of years with COVID, we're working remotely where we can. Those that can't work remotely, primarily production people, we did some discretionary bonuses to reward people for coming into work and, essentially a much more dangerous environment where everybody's worried about getting COVID and getting sick and bringing that home. We still had people that came into the office every day, into the plants every day, and did their jobs. And for that, throughout the COVID period, we've been making additional discretionary bonus payments. Employees love that. Plus, it helps with retention because they see the signs down the road. We're hiring, we pay more. Well, they don't pay. They don't pay more than we do, and they don't have the benefits and the programs that we have installed that help us with our retention. And these programs have resulted in a much higher, much better level of employee retention. The next slide, please, is having to do with communication. And this is where we get into talking about our core values. Originally, when I first started with the company, we didn't have any annual meetings. There were only 8, 9 employees, and we just have, we get together for dinner. And that was it. But we took those dinners and turned them into annual meetings. And in those meetings, then, with all of our employees present, we started to acknowledge our salespeople for achieving their sales quotas and generally comment on the direction the company was taking. We shared some information about our annual revenues, but over time, we learned that sharing information with our employees was an important aspect of engaging with them. And the more engaged they became, this will shock you, the better our results of operations became. In recent years, we've taken all of this engagement to an entirely new, higher level. I wished we'd done this earlier. As I mentioned earlier, all of these things, if we'd done them when we were $1 million or $2 million company, they don't cost a ton of money, but they will generate substantial returns. At least they did for us. And I just as a side note, as you noted in my resume, my CV that Mary read, I was in the service industry before and during being involved with Engaged Technologies, and I think a lot of these things have equal application to service industries as well as to manufacturing concerns. So don't get caught up with the fact that we're a manufacturer, because I think things like reimbursing employees to get smarter and improve their skill sets, matching 401ks. All these concepts that I've touched on are legit, and they are applicable, I think, just about every company, any business that you're in. So in recent years, and again, the last 5 years in particular, because that's when I took over this company, and you can't argue with the data I gave you earlier, how our growth has doubled. And that's kind of amazing given the fact that we did that during a pandemic, a global pandemic, no less. We hold quarterly and annual all-employee meetings, and we talk about almost everything. We don't, as I mentioned, have 100% transparency, but we do talk about core values, our vision. Every single meeting we hammer on core values and our vision. We talk about employees who have gone above and beyond the call of duty, all as part of demonstrating our core values. We introduce new employees. We acknowledge milestones from employees. You know, if you've been here for 20 or 30 years, and we have several who've been here for more than 30 years. And that's just really fun. We also talk about our accomplishments, not just revenue, not just sales, but new product development, ISO certification, which I'll get to you in a minute. I'll get to that in a minute. New products and other meaningful developments in the company. For example, one of the last quarterly meetings we had, we talked about our new facility in Big Lake and how excited we were. And you just can't believe the energy that is generated when you have positive news and you give it to them and they feel like they're engaged, they're part of this experience. There is, you know, we work to make the messaging very positive. There's very few times you'll hear our senior management use the word I or me or myself. Very, very few. It's always we, because it's the collective that makes it happen. So we do quarterly, we do annual meetings. I mean, we do them and they love it. The employees look forward to it. They want to do that. They want to hear how we're doing because they're part of the gig. Okay. So I would highly recommend you do that. The other thing we do is we spend a lot of time surveying our employees and also our customers. With regard to our employees, the one thing that I want you to keep in mind, and I think you should do that. I highly recommend it that you do this. Is if you're not willing to listen and make changes, then you're wasting everybody's time. So the information that we get in our surveys from our employees, which is solicited on a what's the word? There's a word for it. We don't know who they are. Anonymous, right? They're anonymous surveys. And it takes a while to get people to buy into that because they are constantly worried that if they say something negative, it will get back to them. And that's natural and that's logical and understandable. But when you put the information as part of your quarterly meeting and say, hey, here's what you said, and here's what we're doing to address that, that engagement of our employees is incredible. Our sick days are down. You know, disputes and disruption in the facilities amongst our employees is, I won't say it's non-existent. That would be naive to suggest that, but we have very, very few incidents where people are not getting along in the office. And I think that's all part of that. And in fact, for the past 2 years, we've been recognized, Engage is recognized as one of the best places to work. And in manufacturing, our scores are off the charts. So that's employee surveys. If you aren't doing those, I suggest you do that. We also survey our customers, and with every product that's delivered, every shipment that goes out, every product that's delivered to all of our customers, we track what's called a Net Promoter Score. It's a very simple survey based on the likelihood of the customer recommending us to a colleague or a friend. It's a simple 1 to 10 scale, 1 to 10 rating. 1 is terrible, 10 is awesome, perfect. Our average score for the last 2 years is 9.4. And again, and that's surprisingly very, very high. But if you get this negative response and you don't do anything, in other words, you don't react, then you're wasting everybody's time. So you have to get the information and you have to analyze it and you have to act on it. Now, not everything that every customer or every distributor says is correct or meaningful, and we get that. But when they are right, and it is meaningful, we take immediate action. And when I get a negative survey report back from one of our distributors, we call them directly, immediately, find out what happened and fix it. The other thing we do by way of communication with our customers, I think it's very important, it's been very important for us, is what we call our distributor forum. And we invite our, say, 10 of our large, but not necessarily the largest, but 10 of our large distributors from all over the country, some in coding and marking, some in packaging, some both. And we bring them to Minneapolis and we sit down with them and we survey them in person. We work them over. We find out, what can we do to improve? What products and services do our distributors see in the field, and how can we better serve them with better or different products and services? In addition to the obvious benefits of engaging with our key customers, it helps us with planning for our new product development. Again, I think that applies to service companies as well as manufacturers. If you were to bring in your top 10 clients as a law firm, and there are some confidentiality things that you can work through. Believe me, I know how to do that. I've done that. But you bring those people in, you sit down and you share with them what we're trying to achieve. We want to be better. We want to be a bigger, faster animal. We want to have better support. We want to give you what you need. They will tell you. If you ask them the right questions, they will give you everything you need to know to be able to get that business and improve that level of business and service with that particular client. We do that with every sale. Finally, on the communication issue, I was on a flight from Minneapolis to Seattle, and I read in a Fortune magazine an article about Elon Musk, who's, as we all know, a notorious character, and I wouldn't necessarily suggest that we all model Elon Musk, but he had in this article, they talked about a link on their website for Tesla, where you can communicate directly with Elon Musk. And I thought, geez, he's got 1 million shareholders, stakeholders, how many million employees all over the world, suppliers, and here I'm just this little Engaged Technologies in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. If he can do it, then I can do that. So if you go onto our website, any of our division websites, there'll be a link on there. It says, you want to talk to me? You can send me an email. And I'll tell you what, I highly recommend it. I got an email through this link from a customer in Illinois who started out his email with, I don't believe it. I don't believe it's you that's going to answer this email. I called him right then and there. And I said, believe it. What can we do? That fellow has become a lifetime customer of Engaged Technologies. We solved his problem. We sell him more equipment and more product than ever before. And he's referred us literally dozens of customers simply because of that link, which I thought was, again, I stole it from Elon Musk, so I'm giving credit where credit is due. So those are the takeaways, I think, these are the takeaways on the communication thing, which is there can be only one vision. You can switch slides, please. It has to be a clear, unambiguous, and constant communication where we are communicating our vision and our core values. With employees, move fast and hire better people as best you can. Don't just hire a body to put in a chair. No square pegs in round holes, as they say. Hire better talent with every opportunity that you can do that. Pay them fairly, pay your employees, communicate with them, give them opportunities for advancement. It will pay dividends, I promise. It certainly has worked for us. So I can only go by what my experience has been. And then survey your people and survey your customers and constantly do that. The more you do it and the more that you are able to be or willing to be responsive to the things that they think should change, I think the better off you're going to be. Next slide, please. We're close here. I want to hit these real fast. This is operations. First thing we did when I took over this company is we started doing Kaizans. Kaizans are the Sino-Japanese terminology that's meaning the Japanese stole it from the Chinese. And that is the process of constantly reviewing every aspect of your operations. So we went through customer service, order entry, sales, production in all three of our plants in Minnesota, fulfillment, shipping. We went through accounting, marketing. We went through every aspect of our operations, and to the level of, in our ink production facility, we had people walking alongside an ink maker to count the steps to make sure that we set up our ink production facility so that we could be more efficient. As it turns out, today, after our Kaizens in that property, in that facility, we can make inks in 3 hours that it used to take us 3 days to make. I kid you not. So, you know, you put your critical hat on and you walk through every aspect of your business from stem to stern. And then that process never ends. It's a continuing process of evaluating and improving every single aspect of your operations. When we did that, well, our numbers started to grow dramatically. And then we moved from there into ISO 9001 certification. And frankly, we were ISO certified in a heartbeat because we'd done the Kaizens. We were ready for them. And the ISO certification people specifically told me that they'd never had a company go through this process as efficiently and as correctly as we did. And we were ISO certified immediately. And we just finished a month ago our first annual outside audit. Just a tip on ISO certification and Kaizens, don't use it for manufacturing at least. I would suggest that you find people who have gone through those processes before. There's no reason to learn all of those lessons the hard way. But we were committed to the Kaizens, we were committed to the ISO certification, helped us find our weaknesses, helped us address them in a systematic fashion. The incidental benefit was we ended up with situations where we could avoid having third-party independent supply chain audits for some of our multinational customers. And frankly, our revenues grew quickly and dramatically. So if you're interested in revenue generation, moving quick, getting it done, I would have done the ISO and the Kaizens. Honestly, I'd have done them 15 years ago if I'd known about them. So those to me are really key things. And finally, and again, this is all data. What we're trying to do here is generate the data. With the Kaizens, with the ISO certification, it's all documentation, it's data. If you have a piece of equipment that fails, now we have a process, it's all documented, we know it failed. Now we know we got 3 of them that failed, we know why they failed, then we can install systems and procedures to address those failures so you're not making the same mistakes over and over and over again, which is very common with small companies. They put it aside and say, well, I'll get to that one, and they send out a new one. Same problem, not when you're ISO certified, not when you've been through the Kaizens to set you up for ISO certification. Now you've got a process in place, you have the data that allows you to make informed decisions. Finally, I'm giving Salesforce the plug here for no other reason than I think they earned the credit. It's a super piece of software that we purchased, and it is driven by this. Way back in the day, we'd go to Pack Expo, which is the largest packaging show in the United States, and all of our sales reps would be there. And at the end of the day, all the leads that we generated, in some cases 1,100 leads, and then we'd simply pass out little pieces of paper with the name and the telephone number of the lead to each of our district sales managers, and it was up to them to follow up with them. And you know, my question at the time was, well, how do we know, are we making any money with this expense that we're incurring with the packaging shows? A lot of money. And sure, there's branding and brand awareness, and there's value in that. So, but we still were generating all this data, and we weren't assembling it. We weren't collecting it in a meaningful way. So we ended up with this Salesforce software. There are several companies that do the same kind of analysis. We just happen to use Salesforce. And now every single lead is analyzed, logged, and tracked. We're developing an enormous database that will guide us for years to come. Our marketing is driven by this. Our new product development is impacted by this. Our projections are impacted by this. All of our business development initiatives are driven by this data. Every single decision that we make in this company relative to new product development and putting something in our catalog to supplement our existing products is supported by hard data. Get my senior group together, we analyze the data, we figure out what is it going to cost, what's the investment required for a new printer, for example, how long will it take to develop the software, what is this going to cost, and can we support it? Does the business model support the investment? And if so, over what period of time will we then start to see a return on investment? So everything we do in this company is driven by data. There are no knee-jerk reactions, zero. There are no knee-jerk reactions in this company. Everything in this company is driven by data. And, whether it's the ISO documentation in our processes and manufacturing or Salesforce information, which is driven by our raw sales data, everything we do is driven that way. So the takeaways, and I think I'm running out of time. I may have run over a minute or two, but the takeaways are nonstop analysis for improvement of every aspect of your company. That's the Kaizens. I highly recommend it. I'd have done it 10 years ago. I'd done it 20 years ago if I'd known about it. Have people on the staff who are experienced with Kaizens and ISO. You don't learn everything the hard way. And then gather the data and use it to support your decisions. Don't put it in a drawer and ignore it or forget it. There's important information that can be assembled in your business decisions. If your goal is to generate wealth, you want to generate generational wealth, you want to grow your company, quickly and get to the next level, these items that I just talked about today, I think are helpful. Certainly, I can speak on my own company's behalf. They've done wonders for this company. We've grown dramatically. We, as Mary mentioned earlier, we sold product into 63 countries last year. We have a plant in Shanghai, one in the Netherlands, an office out in California. We got 4 facilities in Minneapolis, in the Minneapolis area. And we're growing and trying to hire production people to fill the need, because we have a lot of people selling product all over the world, and we got to make it, we got to get it out the door, and it's got to be right. So there you go. The floor now is open for questions.
Okay, yeah, Mary, next slide. So David, thank you for that. You reinforced many of the themes that we address in different forms throughout the research and the roundtable portion, so it's great confirmation. We have a couple questions or comments in the chat. I just wanted to start it off that there's some reoccurring themes that were you demonstrated by examples, and I'm just curious how those are evolved, because the passion that you convey about the we mindset, the importance of gathering information data to better serve customers and employees. I mean, there's some real themes that I guess they come from the core values, but how that is initially articulated and then how it's translated would be a question, because it seems to drive everything that you do. Can you talk a little bit about how you establish those and then how you nurture and protect those? And while you do that, we'll ask everyone to either bring up their video or bring up or unmute so we can ask questions. And we'd start with Diane in just a moment.
So, Steve, you want me to talk about how we balance the? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, the core values seem to, they're great on paper, but you live them. The examples that you provided were pure demonstration of core values in action. And I'm just curious how you get them to be established, rock solid, and then how you protect them. Because with growth comes the ability or the potential of diffusing, the passion and the core values. They can be undermined, and yet you appear to have protected them well. So it's a little bit about how they were established and how you protect them.
Well, they were established based on input from all of our senior managers. We get together. We do that quarterly. As a matter of fact, we were doing that before we learned that to be ISO certified, you have to have quarterly meetings of your senior management where you review all the documents and the information. So I guess we were a little bit ahead of the game by having those discussions and those meetings before the ISO certification occurred. But we all sat down in a room and we thought about what do we want to be, as a company? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? And what do we need for our employees to say and do on a daily basis in order for us to get there? Can't do it on your own. So how do we get everybody to collaborate? These core values, our mission statement, are on every flat surface throughout our office, our buildings, in the cafeteria. They're in every employee handbook that we distribute. Every quarterly meeting, the first 4 slides are, here are our core values, here's our vision, and here are people in the company that demonstrated our core values in their work, in actual examples. It did a couple things, right? One is it gave people who were doing a great job a pat on the back and some recognition, which, I don't think you can ever go wrong with recognizing people that are doing the right thing, people that are, going above and beyond the call of duty. The only way that can go sideways on you is if it's the same person over and over and over again, and then people start to ask whether that person has pictures. So, I try to pick somebody from each one of our, whether it's production, customer service, ink production, packaging, sales, something where somebody did something above and beyond the call of duty, and we highlight that. These are the values that we adhere to. And, there is a no BS rule here, right? I mean, if you aren't performing consistent with what we as a group have established as acceptable parameters, right? If you're out on the production floor and you're screaming at somebody, that doesn't work. Have we had to fire some people from that? Frankly, no. But have we had to sit down and have those hard conversations and do some training and then potentially shift positions? Absolutely. So, but all the managers understand these are the rules of the game. And we're still a small enough company with 145 employees where, and if you got 1 million employees all over the world, it's pretty hard to say, okay, everybody has to play by the same rules. But this is a pretty small little pool we live in here. And so far, it seems to be effective.
Great. All right. Well, so Diane, you had a question. Why don't you voice that yourself and see if we can get some further feedback?
Well, I really liked the concept of always hiring up. So when it comes to the hiring up, I'm finding that I'm balancing between 2 things, trying to hire somebody that already has the skills and the talent, and that you're getting a good bang for your buck, so to speak, and hiring somebody where they might not have all the skills, but they just seem to have a potential that goes beyond knowing the skills. How do you balance that?
Well, I think you're doing exactly the right thing. I mean, I do the same thing. If it were as simple as saying, well, I need somebody that has all of these skill sets and the person will fit in the culture here. If it was that easy, anybody could do it, right? It's never that easy. It's hard to find really, really good people. I was not aware of the term ghosting until I took over this company, and sadly, it's a term that I'm now very familiar with. You run an ad for somebody in production, and 10 people respond, and 6 of them will accept an interview appointment, and 2 will show up. They don't call to say I'm not coming; they just don't show, which is embarrassing. And then of the 2 people that show up, we've got to the point now where you hire both of them because halfway through the first week, one of them just will disappear at lunch and not come back, right? It's a crazy, crazy time. And I hope that we're going to, evolve as maybe it's a culture, maybe it's a society, maybe it's pandemic driven, maybe it's emotional issue where people are just, really not comfortable because of the pandemic, right? I don't know, but I think you're doing exactly the right thing. Either hire them if they have the skills, we're looking for them. We spend a lot of time trying to find them, and if we don't find them, then you hire somebody that is coachable and trainable, and then you motivate them through I think some of the things that I talked about earlier to go and develop those skills over time. So I think your balance is the same as mine.
Okay, confirmation is progress. All right, so we're here because we're trying to learn, improve, and grow ourselves and our business. And I'm all for shameless plugs if it helps our members. So Raghu, he put in there a reference to Salesforce. I'm going to give him a 30-second introduction, knowing that we can get that number to David separately. But is there something beyond commentary on Salesforce that you would like to share, or just simply introduce yourself, because clearly David's passionate about Salesforce?
Hello, David. Thank you very much for all the information. This is very valuable. I am Raghu Chijarla, owner of Solutions, and we are in business since 2015. And our customers improved by 18% while the implementation cost is reduced. And we are specialized in Salesforce. If you have any need for integration, if you have any issues with your existing Salesforce, we can help you with the Salesforce.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you. The first, I'm not making this up, the first contract I signed when I took over this company in January of 2016 or 17 was in the Salesforce contract to buy that software. I had mentioned the exercise of going to PAC Expo in Chicago, coming back with a bunch of leads, distributing those leads like playing cards and never hearing anything about it ever again. And I asked my son, who was working with the packaging marketing group at the time, and I says, there's got to be some software that we can, use we can use to assemble this data and make use of it. It's stupid to do it this way. And he did the research, and he came back with 3 or 4 different companies, and we ended up hiring our head of sales based on. He'd like to think of it that we hired him because of his charm and his good looks and his dashing appearance, but that's not the case. We hired him because he's an expert in Salesforce. And I'm not I don't want to plug necessarily Salesforce, although I just did. I don't want to plug law firms because I have some history of being involved with giant law firms as well. But I will say that if you get in with some people that are good, high quality lawyers, good, high-quality accountants, high-quality people that know all the software systems and procedures that you need to help your company grow, I think you ought to do that.
Sure.
We did. So I appreciate your input.
All right. Well, I allow some more latitude. One other plug, because Frederickson Byron has been a longtime sponsor, and when I learned that David was well aware, in fact, a client of theirs, I thought getting his confirmation is only fair for Courtney, especially since she's not here. So any 15-second plug you could say for Frederickson Byron, David, that would be to Krista or to Courtney's benefit?
Well, again, I was a member of the cloth, as you know, since I practiced law for 30 years, and I'm probably the most difficult client that you could have as a lawyer, as a law firm, because I know exactly how it works and what you can and what you can't do and what you should do as a lawyer, as outside counsel. So I run a really tight ship. All of the lawyers that work for our company, which include Fred Law, but not exclusively Frederickson, all of them, I'm sure when they see my number on their phone that I'm calling, they kind of go, oh God, here we go. So yeah, I've had good experience with Frederickson and a number of other law firms in Minneapolis over the years. And again, I highly recommend finding somebody with a firm that has substance and the support and the technical know-how, whether it's software or manufacturing, or if you're selling professional services like accounting or or recruiting services, have somebody that has a great reputation. I would steer away from people that don't have a great reputation, and there are lots of those. And I would use them. I'd rely on them because generally speaking, they're getting input from, you know, many different clients, and so they can give you the benefit of all of that wisdom that they've gained over years of working with high-level clients. And high-level law firms generally don't take clients unless they're high-level clients.
Okay. All right. So opening questions up to the field. Any questions not posted that we're missing?
I have one question because I can see a lot of you. I can't see all of you. Did I say anything other than those that have commented? Did I say anything that made you feel that this was worthwhile to listen to? just raise your hand and say, yeah, it was worthwhile. Because I like to know, because I survey my customers as well. And, you know, if you don't ask the question, you won't get the response. And if the response is negative, then I will.
Well, I would comment, and I guess it would lead to a question for you, is that adopting Kaizen and the principle of continuous learning plays out in all the different things that you've talked about, how you're always searching for feedback internally, externally, and then converting that to value for your customers, whether it's new products or a better delivery of those products. I mean, the turnaround time you talked about on that ink from 3 days to 3 hours, I mean, that's remarkable. So I guess the underlying question is, applying the principles of continuous learning and Kaizen, you've gone in and changed operations to make you more competitive. Is there anything about that we might miss when we think about that example from the manufacturing floor that would relate to CEOs as they're trying to scale, and continuous improvement is important to them no matter the industry? Like, how would Kaizen apply beyond the example that you shared?
Well, just one example of measuring, because it only matters if you can measure it, Steve, right? If you can't measure it, then it's just a bunch of warm, fuzzy stuff that isn't at all helpful to me. So I look at our monthly revenue in our servicing department, because we can fix and repair anybody's inkjet printing systems and lasers and high resolution printing systems. I've got a staff of people that do that. They fix not only our printers, but everybody else's printers. And we keep track of whose printers we're fixing all the time. And service revenue from our printing systems has dropped dramatically. Why would that be? Because we're selling a much better product than we were 4 years ago or 3 years ago. These Kaizens have allowed us to figure out where the holes are and fix them in our systems, in our products. So, you know, you can measure that. It's clearly obvious to us. Our servicing revenue goes like this because we're not fixing our printers anymore. Our sales revenue is going like this because we're selling more product. And for every printer that we sell the ink. So it is the razor blade proposition. And, you know, we love selling printers because if I sell you one of my printers, you're going to buy my ink for life. So the better the quality of the printer, the more ink we sell, the fewer repairs we have, and the reduced number we get from our servicing revenue. So it's very easily ascertainable.
And I understand you measured that, but was that the intent other than being responsive? Did you see the inverse relationship?
Absolutely, that was the intent. What we're trying to do with the Kaizens is get better, right? We want to be better in everything. It wasn't just in manufacturing, it was in, you know, customer service, right? I have a team of people that answer the phone, answer the emails, input the orders from all over the world. So they have to know everything about shipping and bills of lading and letters of credit and so on and so forth. And so we operate much more efficiently now than we did before. The Kaizens led us to supplement our training and service materials so that when we install a printing system in Keokuk, Iowa, I can't send somebody down to Keokuk, Iowa to fix a printer that's a $5,000 printer, right? the customer needs to know how to clean the print head and load the print cartridge and enter the message that they want to, the code they want to enter on whatever they're printing. So the Kaizens led us to make some decisions in terms of how we go about teaching our customers on all of those things. So you can go on our YouTube channel and find literally 1,000 videos that show you exactly how to install, how to service, how to maintain, how to troubleshoot every one of our printers. That came about not only from the Kaizens, but frankly, it also came about because of the COVID and the pandemic. We couldn't send our service technicians out. A lot of plants were shut down. We couldn't get people in those plants. So we had to create a vehicle to get our customers the information that they needed to do what needed to be needed to get those equipment, those products back up and operating. So I like to say, never waste a good pandemic. And that the pandemic caused us to spend a lot of time and a lot of money generating that YouTube channel resource that frankly, we will continue to use forever and supplement forever, because it just makes us more accessible and makes us a better partner for our distributor customers.
Well, so you make a compelling argument. The question is, for those of us that either are not familiar or in industries where that's not as common, because it has a manufacturing history, how would a person get started? Like, what's the one book? What's the one manual? What's the one consultant? How would you engage, given that our audience is companies that are a bit smaller and companies that maybe aren't as attuned to manufacturing? What would be a way for us to start to apply Kaizen principles and learning?
Okay, well, this is a trade secret that I stole whilst I was practicing law. You should all know that in the legal business, all of the loan documents that you ever saw in your life, loan agreement, promissory notes, security agreement, pledge agreement, those were all forms that were generated back in the early 60s by Barclays Bank. They saw that their bankers were using a variety of different forms, so they standardized on one set of forms. And everybody stole those forms because it worked. And so now if you sign a mortgage or a promissory note or a security agreement, the lawyers at Barclays Bank in the early 60s are the guys that generated that. I don't care what anybody tells you. Every lawyer stole those documents, okay? So what I'm going to say is, if you wanted to go on our website, our YouTube channel, and you wanted to look at a printer and see how it was installed, you could see exactly what I'm talking about. And then it would be a matter of buying a camera and putting your products up and videoing it. And if it was that easy, anybody could do it. I've got a very highly skilled group of people that work on that almost every day. But that's how we did it. You go online and you see what somebody else did and you parent it and adapt it to what you're doing.
Okay. All right. Any questions or applications on that? We're coming up to the top of the hour, where how you might do that, like in the architectural field, Daniel, how might you apply some of these principles so that you can bring efficiencies, bring profitability in, and then better serve your clients? Any ideas?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, yeah.
Put you on the
process. I know, definitely. No, that is something I've been thinking, because we have a lot of processes within our business, from engagement to running projects to just across the board. And it's kind of oral history. We're a small firm. It's how have we done this for the last 30 years? And people kind of have their own interpretations of that. So I think getting it down in a kind of clear way where we could reevaluate, these are the steps that we've documented, and are they still working? Do they work for a certain type of client and not others? We could get far more specific with it.
Well, so when I had the original conversation with David and then subsequent talks, I saw a lot of the parallels or themes tied to traction, meaning getting your SOPs tight, being able to train and deliver a common experience, a common service, a common product. And the discipline of traction is, he's been doing traction before it was traction. This is my takeaway. And so there are things that you could do within the context of traction that would very much complement all of the success that David's had.
Let me comment, Daniel, because you made I think an important point there, and that is, we're a small shop. We're a small shop. Compared to our competition, we're a small shop. And you've been doing things one way for many years. I think you said 30 years. When I took over this company, I would sit down in our senior, and this sounds brash and it sounds maybe a little draconian. It's not intended to, but when I would ask a question and one of the senior managers would say, well, that's the way we've been doing it for years. And my answer to that was the next person that says we're doing something because that's the way we have done it in the past, that person's fired. Because that's a terrible answer. That's no answer at all. That's just saying, here, right? That's the answer. And instead of having a meaningful response with a, why am I doing this way? And explaining in a logical, practical way, here's why we do this. It's not because it's the way we did it in the past. There are logical, rational thoughts that go behind our process, right? So the part of the Kaizen is asking that question on everything you're doing. Why are we doing it this way? And how can we do it better? And that even involves walking, as I mentioned, from a grinder to a mixing fixture, right, to a bottling fixture and an ink production facility, and walking and counting the number of steps so that you know exactly how many steps he or she had to walk in order to make this bottle of ink. And, when you do that, all of a sudden the lights will start turning on. You're going to go, well, why are we doing it this way? That's insane. Well, it's because we've been doing it that way for the last 30 years. It's a wrong answer, right? Here's why we're going to do it this way, because it's more efficient, it's more effective, it'll generate more revenue, it'll make us improve our margins, and what we all want is to generate wealth. We want to generate generational wealth, right? We want to build our companies, grow our companies. The only way you do that is to every single day ask really hard questions of your people. Why are we doing it this way? Is there a better way to do it? That's how we roll here.
That is a great closing comment and theme. So thank you for taking us to task on paying attention and looking around the corner. So Mary, closing comments regarding today's program, and then August, how things will be different in August.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, David, for sharing your wisdom today. I know I have a lot of notes on my notepad that can even be translated into the work that I'm doing. We are excited in August to be going back in person. We will be hosting the CEO Forum at the St. Louis Park City Hall in their council chambers. And hopefully we'll have lunch provided, but we'll be working on that. So it's a great transition. We'll be celebrating kind of you all, as it's your last kind of session for the CEO Forum and the CEO Next Roundtable series. And so mark your calendars, and we'll send out more information soon about that.